they accept the others but as side features. So this is how it goes. People who worship Devi, the woman, they're fanatical. You know, God is a woman, and that's it. And they will worship her like that. So that's how it goes. India is very diverse in religion and tolerant. They do have big arguments and fights between the sects, but overall they're pretty tolerant. Overall, pretty tolerant. Those groups that are like, say, Krishna group or Shiva group or Durga group, those specific groups, most of them have enemies. Like the Shiva group, I see the Krishna group as enemies, and the Shiva group as enemies. But overall in India, when you walk into a small Hindu temple, wherever Indians are, they will have all the deities around. All the deities. I used to go to Hindu temple in Gyan all the time, and this week is going to be Shivaratri, next week is going to be Ram Navami, next week is going to be Ganesh Chaturthi, next week is going to be Shiva Janmashtami, next week is going to be, oh man, you know, and they'll chant in prayers just for those deities on a night. Yeah. And they're acting like there's nobody else but that deity on that. It's amazing how they do it. They just switch from one deity to the next. And this week I'm saying Krishna is the supreme God. Next week Shiva is the supreme God. And they just do that without thinking about it. And Western people can't do that because, you know, you like to just stick with one.
Yeah, but this idea of all-pervading energy, impersonal, okay? The Hindu, the reason they can do it because they think ultimately it all comes from that one source anyway. See, so therefore, what's the problem on that level of different?
Only the big people think like that. The average Hindus does not think like that. They don't. You're talking about the people that fight. The leaders think like that. The ordinary Hindu.
Don't you?
I'm flying to the United States from, let's say, Guyana or India. Okay? I'm leaving next week. This week I'm in the temple. I'm up near the altar with the priest. He's chanting mantras, worship Hanuman. Because the idea is that Hanuman flies across the ocean. I want to make sure I get across this ocean without the plane crashing. So I'm going to worship Hanuman. That's what the average Hindu does. I want money for my wife. I'm worshiping Lakshmi. Very simple. That's what they do. They're not concerned with Gita. The idea that the average Hindu is into philosophy is total nonsense. It does not happen. They're not concerned.
Their worship.
They don't want to hear anything about philosophy. They're very practical, dollars and cents. It's very similar to Christianity. What did Christ do? Multiply fish, bread, wine, water. Our needs as physical beings is what they pursue. But there's a group of people who are philosophers. They're the ones who are doing the arguments. The average Hindu is not concerned with that. They're not concerned with that at all. All those people, the monks, the swamis, they are a minority in the Indian populace. Just turn on your TV to one of the Indian channels and you will see what I mean. Most people in India, they go to the temple, they just want to worship the god, to get a little more money, to get health, maybe pray for grandfather who died last week that he gone to heaven. Some heaven may be the heaven of Shiva, the heaven of Krishna, according to the sect the family was born into. But they're not, I've lived with Indians, they're not interested. One of the most disappointing things is that Indians have no interest in Hindu philosophy, none. You have to tie them down.
Will wait until their health goes to crap, and then they want to know from him, well, what asana, what kriya can I do to reverse my health problem, or what mantra can I chant?
They're not interested.
You know.
See, this type you can go to, but he's the kind you don't go to those kind of questions. See, about.
But they do.
Yeah, but see, he's a very philosopher type. You go to him and he'll answer all your questions, the real questions. But the mundane stuff, he can answer it too, but he won't get into it. He said, well, go to them over there. Oh, no, I'm not there. He's here for what he's here for right now. He's trying to explain things to you. The average Hindu is not actually even Hindu, actually, not really. By the old school.
Lived at the ISKCON Society for
Yeah.
Krishna Consciousness.
Yeah, I was a Hare Krishna for a
That
while.
was where a long time ago, 40 years
That's where I
ago.
met
West Virginia.
Michael. He was like a godsend for me and for the whole place, but of course they didn't appreciate it because they were these mundane materialism, you know, they were trying to, you know, but I wasn't. I was there for trying to escape reality in a higher sense. So he came there, not necessarily for me, but he came there for his certain reasons. Then same time oh well, let me talk to this guy, you know, try to help him out. So I will admit, he commanded respect. Oh yeah. But he didn't join in any of their games though. Political stuff? No. But they all respected him. They were scared to death of him. Their leaders, because he was so, what's the word, full of integrity.
I grew up in British Guyana, which is on the north coast of South America. It's the country that's east of Venezuela. It was the main population there are people who are descendants of Indians from India, who the British have brought as indentured servants. And even though that we lived side by side, the landlord was Indian. The three other people in the yard, we call it the yard, a long path and then houses. We were at the last house, they were Indian. And not the only function I ever was allowed to go to was a wedding that the landlord had. And the landlord invited the elders in my family to go there. And they wouldn't go because they were Christians. And Christians could not go to these functions because Hindus were known to worship idols, which is banned, of course, in the Christian system. So they would send me, I would go. When I would go there, I would not be allowed to go inside where the mantras were chanted. They never said it, but that's what was going on. I would be put in the back. There was always a backyard where men cooked. They had these huge pots. A pot would be as big as this, called kaharis, and they would be cooking because when they have weddings, a lot of people are coming. They're cooking lamb. The Indians use a lot of sheep meat and goat meat for weddings. They're cooking the lamb, and they're cooking dal, and they're cooking rice, huge pots. I would be back there with the guy, and I liked it because the guy would always keep feeding me. Huge fat guy, you know, keep feeding me, but I had no exposure to it. We would see pictures of Krishna, Shiva, Ganesh, Durga, Lakshmi, like that. Primarily those deities and Saraswati in the market. This is a bizarre type of market where there's little stalls, you know, something like a flea market, but permanent thing. And the Indians would have shops there with the pictures of the deities. That was it. You never saw anything of what the English did. Because they were at that time observing their caste, and if you were a low caste Indian, you could not sit up near where the priest was. Certain mantras, you couldn't hear it. They wouldn't let you hear it. And that comes, you might see that in here, where they're very prejudiced towards the lower caste. If you know what to look for when you read through the Mahabharata, you can see that, you know, Sanskrit language was something that everybody didn't do. You had to be in a certain family to know it. It's not like where everybody talks the language. No, Sanskrit was a language. In other words, it was like if the U.S. government has a formula for making a newer nuclear bomb, they're not going to just publish that online. Yeah. So Sanskrit was a dangerous language at the time because when somebody would say a sound, it could kill you by pronouncing a sound. So it was a weapon, you know. So like that, you wouldn't want to give it to anybody. You know, you give me that, then I kill you with it. And there's stories like that where a guru would give a disciple something, the disciple turn on a guy and kill him with a mantra that the guru gave them. So it's interesting the culture, what was going on at the time. And the application to Bhagavad Gita is the main thing when you read this book, and also understanding reincarnation. That what we are doing now is not causing what is happening to us. Opportunities open to me, not because of what I do now. Generally, I think, I got a job as a doctor because I went to school and I got a degree in medicine. No, there's no way that can get you that job. You are getting that job because of your past life. It's hard to understand this. For instance, we have a president now. People wonder how the guy is in there and why is he staying in there. Because during the time he was running for office, so many things came out that were negative that years ago, nobody could be president under that circumstance. He's a president there because of things he did in his past lives, not because of what he's doing now. So this book shows clearly, in many cases, it shows you, if you ask to explain, well, this guy's doing this, but then he'll say, well, in the past life he had done this. So we have a habit of rationalizing everything in terms of this life only. It's a serious mistake. It really limits you when you think like that. You are limited to be hell. And you also are shutting down any mystic ability that you have, any higher intuition. You are killing it yourself by doing that. You're snuffing out your little insight. So Mahabharata can open up our minds to that type of concept, so we begin to understand that there's a feedback from the past lives into this. We get an opportunities not because of past life. Just to get the body. You can't get it based on the present. You get the body based on your past. Just to get the body in a particular family, in a particular country, at this time and place. Why did you get a body, let's say, in the Sudan, where people are starving right now? You grew up as a kid like that. Why did you get that body? Why did you get this body? Because your past. It's not because of what you did right now. So this book helps with that. You look for the insight into it. Any other questions?
Do you guys have any questions about the yoga, the Kundalini process, the locks, subtle body,
Yeah, how does that connect with all this?
Well, without that.
Yoga is connected because all of these people practically were doing yoga. It's not that obvious, but all of these people. For instance, the villain of this book, the bad guy, is Duryodhana. Okay? It doesn't tell you he was doing yoga in this book until you get to the end of the book. And then you hear that he went down into a lake and was doing pranayama down there and stayed down there for a long time. Krishna had to basically trick him to get him to come out so they could kill him.
That he had developed.
That is the
Check him
process
out.
of pranayama. That
Check
is
him out.
pranayama. That is pranayama. But Arjuna did yoga, and that's mentioned in here too. He went into samadhi and so on.
Well, that correct me if I'm wrong. At that time, it's like the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins that were taught yoga.
Yes,
but not the
primarily
lower
just those
class.
two castes, right?
So that kind of, it dampens stuff, doesn't it?
It's the Brahmins who.
If they only taught to the higher caste, and how is it for all living beings or whatever?
Yoga is primarily the property of the Brahmins. Primarily the property of the Brahmins. But it became necessary to teach the warrior caste, because the warrior caste were Brahmins who, at first, were Brahmins who found the necessity to, so to speak, structure civilization. In the time of the Upanishads, they structured the tribes and so on that existed at that time. And so they taught the warrior caste, and it became an independent teaching. The Bhagavad Gita is actually the teaching to the warrior caste. It is not the teaching to the Brahmin caste. The Indians try to say that, but it isn't. Karma yoga is strictly taught to the warrior caste.
They're the ones that are engaged in
Yeah.
cultural activities.
Yeah.
So it would make-
When you read the Uddhava Gita, you will see that Krishna explained in detail Gyan Yoga. That is what was originally taught to the Brahmins. In this book, he does not. He says he taught 3 yogas, which are 2 yogas, pardon me, which are Karma Yoga and Gyan Yoga. And Krishna sorts the 2. But in Uddhava, he adds Bhakti Yoga. In Uddhava Gita. You look in the Sanskrit, you will see it says that clearly. 2 here and then 3 there. So he also explains what yoga is in chapter 6. And Krishna also explains that he did the universal form he was able to show Arjuna that through yoga. The word is there in the Sanskrit. Nobody can twist that word around. It's there in the Sanskrit. It's also present in the Gita again, the second time. So yoga was practiced. Basically, what happened was these rishis, and they weren't monks like the sannyasis, swamis we have today. Originally, most of the leading yogis was householders. So when a person is a householder accomplished yogi, it's called a rishi. When he is a single accomplished yogi, then he's called sannyasi or brahmachari. But originally, they're all rishis. Vyas, the guy who wrote these books, his whole name is Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, householder. In fact, he had a lot of affairs with women. Dhritarashtra is his son. Vidura is his son, from a biological viewpoint. Vidura is his son. Pandu is his son. And there's other stories like that. So originally there were rishis. His Vyasa's authorities, like Vyasa's father is Parashar Muni. He was a guy that had affairs with women too. And it goes back to people like Vashisht Muni. He is also one in the lineage of family. They're all householders. So originally there was a group of guys like that. So as they decided more or less that they had to train some of the Brahmin-born children to be warriors. They found it necessary to protect themselves. There's a story about the one called Manu. It's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. There's more than one Manu. But that one is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita where his son had killed some cave people who were cannibals. Manu was doing these yoga austerities and his body was in trance. And they thought, what the hell, we can eat that. And they were going to kill him, and his son killed him. So what I'm saying is, eventually, to protect society against wild tribes and wild animals, they had to have weapons. They had to do that stuff. It was necessary. It's not that, the earth was at a point where it wasn't wild animals, and this is all nonsense. There's so many stories explained to you. There's a guy, one of the incarnations of Vishnu, his name is Parshuram. He actually, after these warrior caste people became established, after a while they broke away from the Brahmins and they got hostile to the Brahmins. They were trained to just do what Brahmin says, respect Brahmin. But after a while they thought, why do we have to respect them guys? You don't have a job, you doesn't do shit, So they started attacking the Brahmins, and Parshuram, who was a Brahmin, he made this chopper, like a battle axe, and destroyed him. It says 21 generations then he destroyed. So the Kshatriyas, this warrior caste was given, they were taught in the beginning the yoga when they were very young. As boys, they taught the yoga, they taught to meditate, and they taught about the religious and spiritual things. And then when they came of age, they went back home and they took up positions as princess, and so on. You know, that's how it happened at that time. So that's how it happened.
Since the Hare Krishna was into the so-called monk stuff, celibates, when he came through, he just shattered the whole falsity of that thing. Because he was like the most evolved, and yet he was a household. You understand? Yeah. Now I lived with him for some years. It's like living with B.Adjodha or something. It was scary, man. Tightly, the atmosphere was just control,
With his family.
Yes, everything was so. And he was doing his yoga every morning. He'd get up, and then the wife. He dealt with the deities, the wife, children. This is before he went to work. All this before 7:30 or something. Did all this, right?
I have a question.
Postures.
So in terms of like the history of our books, our yoga books, I mean, like you go back into ancient India, it's the Vedas first, and then like we have the Mahabharata, and then the Gita is taken out of it, and then eventually Patanjali arrives on the scene. So I wish you could talk about Patanjali a little bit, how it relates to this, and how we tie in the 8 stages, which seem so imperative to what they were doing. It seems like they would have had those 8 stages clarified in detail, that they would be practicing them, but I don't know if those 8 stages existed at this time or if it was Patanjali that.
Okay, so the Vedas is said to be the oldest writings on the earth. That's a claim that the Indians make. It's contested. Okay? The age of the Vedas, however, is infallibly checked by the Sanskrit itself. If I were to show you a book written by Charles Dickens, and I were to show you a book written by a recent author, you could tell the difference. This guy is definitely from way back when. You may not be able to pin down the year, but we know it's older. So we know for sure the Vedas is older because of the Sanskrit in it. The tense is used in the Sanskrit. The way the Sanskrit is laid out, it's not like in the Puranas of Vyas. When we come to Patanjali, then we come to some really tight, structured Sanskrit. We know that his is recent because of that, the evolution of the language. So we don't need any myths or nonsense. You can tell in an unbiased way just from the way the Sanskrit is laid out. It's not the same Sanskrit when you look at it. The tenses are different. To read the Vedas, you have to know, in English you used to have things like past, future perfect, as far as a verb, the conjugation of verbs. You don't hear about that anymore. Nobody knows about that. Well, similarly, in those languages, they had these previous tenses. So Patanjali's Sanskrit is very modern. So we know for sure it's modern and it's really cleaned up. Just like in English, instead of saying
Would you folks like some cookies?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thanks
yeah,
so much.
in English, instead of saying
Oh, thanks.
Jack has been to the mall, you'll just say Jack went to the mall, something like that. You see the difference? It's the same action, but I'm thinking now has been. What the hell is that? We don't even think like that anymore. Has been is like your mind has to do this time warp shit for you to even understand it. We do it automatically, but if you stop and try to go through what the mind goes through, the difference between has been and was, you're talking about, going through a maze in the comparison. So just like that, we know for sure that Patanjali is recent. Now, as far as him codifying yoga into 8 parts, it was codified before that, but not as systematically as Patanjali laid it out. So the hint is that he either developed this process and streamlined it, or somebody else did and told him. He had a teacher that did that. that's how you can put it together. When you read Bhagavad Gita now, you will find that the whole of Patanjali is there in the Gita, but scattered around all over. The Gita is not an academic book, where in an academic book, I'm going to school. I'm on this page, what I learn here, I use it on this page. What I learn here, I use it on this page. That's academic. Gita is not like that. In the Gita, you might have to read something here and join it up with something over here. It's on the spur of the moment. The guy just spoke according to how the guy is haphazard. So Gita takes a while to study carefully. It's not an academic text. Patanjali is an academic text. So that's the way. The other thing is too, there was an important person by the name of Gorakshnath, and he has books in Sanskrit. He has about 3 or 4 books. But he laid down only 6 processes of yoga. And he dropped the first 2 of Patanjali. The first 2 of Patanjali is Yam and Niyam, which have to do with behaviors, prohibited behaviors and recommended behaviors. Gorakshnath did not deal with that. He just gave the other 6, the actual yoga. So,
Did he figure that was already being done, or?
no, it's just he had a sect, they call them not yogis, and everybody is very advanced and strict, and they break away from society. They don't live in society. Patanjali is for people who are living in society. You gotta follow certain rules and regs. You gotta be social conducts in a certain way. So with Gorakshnath, you broke away from society, you live in isolatedly, either in the forest or in a building, and everybody's doing yoga, and it's open like that. Now, Patanjali is dealing with people who are still in society. So, you've got to know how to deal with things socially. Ultimately, a yogi has to break away from society. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying basically to Arjuna, you have to stay in society and function, but do it with detachment. When he talks to Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita, he tells Uddhava, go away from society, get away from here. It's 2 opposite things like that.
They're 2 different points, basically.
Well, it depends on, again, lifestyle and what you have to do in life. If you don't have to be involved in life for the structure of your destiny, then you shouldn't be, unless you're a fool. Because there's nothing to gain by being involved. Our involvement do not give us any benefits. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. But when you add it up in the end, it's a dead body is what it's going to be. Everything you work for, your house, your car, you have to leave it here. It's one day will come that you have to leave everything here. You have no control over it. It's finished. So like that, even though we have to do these things, we have to keep in the back of our minds that, this is a dead end. This is a dead end, that's all. Yeah, you can plow over your skills that you learned into the next body. You can plow it over, but to do that, you have to get that next body. You have to get it in such and such a family, in such and such a country. And what's the guarantee of that? You came out this time, can you say for sure, well, yes, I know that I wanted my mom and dad to be of this ethnicity and this education, and they actually were? How many of us can say, well, okay, my parents stayed together and they didn't divorce? Or my father was totally responsible. Or my mom, she set me up, everything perfect. There's only a few human beings who can say that. So that's how it is.
So in terms of Patanjali's appearance on the planet at that time and place, I wonder, do you have any insight into why he appeared at that time, or are there any other texts that talk about him?
There's not much information on Patanjali. That's a problem. It's been a problem for yogis to sort Patanjali out. There's a few things we know, however. One thing is that he wrote a Sanskrit grammar book. The two famous people, a guy called Panini and Patanjali. They wrote grammar books on Sanskrit. So that's why Patanjali is Sanskrit, if you know something about Sanskrit. Sanskrit is very tight. There's no room for mistakes. Exact, terse, very compressed. He did that. The other hint we get from Patanjali that he was a Vaishnav, meaning that his deity was one of the Vishnus. And in his book, he's recommended worship of the deity. It is not stressed, and it does not repeat it. He mentions it like maybe in 2 verses, then he stops there. But in India, Patanjali is said to be the incarnation of Shesha. Shesha is a Naga, a divine snake, and he is supposed to be the incarnation of Shesha. This is a divine snake Vishnu lays on, according to the Puranas. So he is supposed to be the incarnation.
So we have a close relationship, obviously.
Yeah. But he doesn't, Yoga Sutras is not a religious book about. Patanjali does not tell you in there you must accept Vishnu as the deity. In fact, Vishnu's name is not mentioned. Shiva's name is not mentioned. He does not say that. It's primarily designed for you to discover the observant self. Yeah, it's where he said the key word in there is kaivalyam. It's also said in Sanskrit as Kevalam. There's a group of yogis like Paramahansa Yogananda's group and the lineage he comes from that says that Kaivalyam is this and Kaivalyam is that. But Patanjali defines Kaivalyam in plain terms. He gives 2 phases of it. Phase 1 is when the seer separates from the seen equipment.
Core self.
Page 2 is when the perception equipment is purified and the seer links back with it. It's very clear in the text. So it's like you have a guy with the binoculars and it's glued onto his face. And you can't get it off. So Patanjali gives you a method of taking this thing off. So now you don't have your binoculars, but at least you realize that, this is a different thing. It's not part of my body. Okay? So he says now, this is how you do to polish this thing so that the glass becomes clear. So the glass is no longer clouded. And once you get that polish, you put it back on. So that's the highlight of Patanjali. All the instructions in the book.
Pranayama process.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what he's.
Clarifying, purifying the subtle body, getting to all the parts, infiltrating everything with oxygen. So, that's part of the reason that we can understand this, and the part of the reason that those people were great that we're reading about.